Hey, everybody, and welcome to another week of Crunching Your Growth. I'm Phil Masiello, your host, as usual. And, every successful business should begin with a real problem. And we're exposed to it all the time where people just start businesses and try to find a problem later on, but that doesn't always work. But for today's guest, the problem was sort of painfully personal. Tony Verutti, who's our guest, was an All American athlete who endured chronic ankle injuries, four ACL tears. And instead of simply accepting injuries as part of competing, he turned those experiences into a mission to create better protection for athletes at every level. So today, Tony's the CEO of Betterguards Technology. He's a global operator who's led teams across four continents by some of the world's largest technology companies in Silicon Valley. Earned his MBA from SDA Bocconi in Milan. He's been featured in Forbes, Sports Business Journal, Sportico, spoken at the United Nations, the World Economic Forum, South by Southwest, MIT. So today we're going to talk about turning adversity into innovation, bringing advanced technology to market, and building a company with a mission that goes far beyond the product. So please welcome Tony Verutti in, and thanks for taking the time to come on.
Phil, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for
Yeah,
having
yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for sharing. So, why don't you give us a little bit of a flavor of your past? I sort of went into some of it, but there's a lot more there.
me. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just grew up playing sports my whole life, and then started having chronic ankle injuries. High school football, tore my ACL playing lacrosse in college. My dad was a physical therapist, actually, so was ingraining, human physiology and anatomy into my brain at a young age. Um, but I started my career in Silicon Valley, kind of cut my teeth in management consulting, and realized I don't want to die in Silicon Valley. No offense to anybody who's still there. But I decided to go to across overseas and got my master's in Italy and started this whole international journey. Spend time in corporate development, helping to identify startups in Africa. Moved into some environmental space, but ultimately found myself running Betterguards Technology as the CEO. We have three entities in Germany, the US, and in Croatia, where we do all of our manufacturing. But ultimately, the question has been for Betterguards, there has to be a better way to help athletes recover and prevent injuries. And it's funny, I found the very first ankle brace I could ever find, and it was from Nathan's Pharmacy in the 1800s. And a lot of the things you see today look very similar to a lot of the products out there. It was actually called the ankle corset, and it was this leather piece that you would tie up, and a lot of like those, lace up ankle braces you see. And so our whole premise is that injuries suck. The products that help you recover from them don't have to. And so our mission is to really help athletes move better, recover faster, and stay protected longer so they can dictate how they come back and how they ultimately play into their future and hopefully, avoid injuries so that they can fulfill their greatest potential.
Yeah, it's great. So where did you grow up?
I grew up in Lake Tahoe, California.
Oh, Lake Tahoe.
Yeah,
Nice.
yeah. California guy, went to school in the Bay Area, went to, Lake Tahoe and Santa Cruz. Actually, my parents were split, but Santa Cruz and Tahoe were pretty fun places to grow up, but very much outside and, grew up in nature's playground.
Yeah, Tahoe is a beautiful place.
And
You know,
it really is, yeah.
are you a skier?
Yeah, grew up skiing. That was one of my ACLs, actually, sadly.
And then then you started your career there over in California. But then why Italy? Why'd you decide to go there, B school in Italy?
I mean, Phil, it looks like your last name, you might be Italian, but
Yeah, very much
yeah,
so.
my Italian roots. I actually did a year abroad in Rome, and I just have always felt a calling back to Italy, and I really wanted to work internationally. Actually, um, I loved California. My whole tribe was there, friends and family, but I wanted to be global. I had this calling, and so I took the leap, and yeah, it really fulfilled itself. I think you can have different reasons for business school. A lot of it's about the network, but I was very intentional on being global, and I wanted to do it in, the land of my roots. So plus the food and all of the other benefits that Italy has, but life and culture and different types of businesses. I was kind of thinking about getting away from tech. Here I am running a sports technology company, but yeah, it was really just being intentional about being more international and expanding my horizons and my experiences beyond my nice cocoon in California.
Yeah. No, that's great. I applaud it. So I would imagine that you've got to be fairly fluent in Italian.
Yeah, it's I definitely was. It's still there when it needs to be, but it's been a while. I mean, I left Italy over 10 years ago. I still try to go back as often as possible. So yeah, but once I'm in the country after a couple days, it definitely gets back to fluency.
Yeah, my wife and I talk about buying a place in Italy because we like going there so much, and I want to get my Italian citizenship because my my family came here first generation, and so we take Italian lessons because I grew up in a very Italian household in the Bronx, and I spoke it constantly. But then for 20 years, I probably didn't speak it at all. And so we started taking Italian lessons with a woman who's in Italy. We do it, via this, and it's fantastic. But it comes back very rapidly, and we have to take exam. I have to take an exam to get my citizenship, and it's like a level 2 or level 3, and it's pretty arduous. I mean, it's not easy, and so we're trying to prepare for that. But I love it there. I kick myself because when I was younger, I definitely had the opportunity. But I used to go over all the time because we still had relatives there, and I thought I don't want to go to I don't want to go to college there. I don't want to go. I can just go there anytime I want to. And I kick myself because I could have, and I should have, because I should have. I wanted to be a little bit more global. So I wasn't really. I was young. I wasn't thinking clearly, and I was on a different path. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Senti, poi parliamo italiano adesso.
yeah,
We can practice now in front of everyone.
yeah. That'd be great. But so then where you went from Italy to where? Africa?
Yeah, moved to New York. Got engaged with an organization, Global Citizen. We at the time they are known for putting on concerts in Central Park, but they're actually an organization working to eradicate poverty. And it was Nelson Mandela's 100th birthday and put on a huge festival. But I was there working with a lot of the entrepreneurs, looking at different projects that can help solve real problems, food and hunger, education. And so the idea was, and there was tech money coming from organizations, not to necessarily put money towards philanthropy, but to find inspiring entrepreneurs who were working on a really impactful mission. And so I had the pleasure of being able to work with the Mandela family, and then ultimately working to find entrepreneurs solving really big, meaningful challenges. And we ended up finding a young woman entrepreneur who was feeding, I think it was 150 kids a day. She was out of Kenya. And now she's feeding 500,000 young students every day in Africa and has expanded amazingly with that money. So the idea was putting an investment in, but not into like a philanthropic effort, putting it into a business that had a way to grow and sustain itself without needing philanthropic donations, right? So she built a business model out. She was able to figure out a route to do this, and the impact's been incredible. So that was a project I worked on for just over a year, based out of Johannesburg, but got to travel around Africa and meet a lot of really incredible impact entrepreneurs who were trying to figure it out. And that was kind of the first stint out of there. I wanted to use my master's, my background in technology, and start to have some more of an impact. That was something that was really calling to me out of my master's program. Like, there's of course opportunities to go into finance and back into
Sure.
marketing and all of these things, but I wanted to use these skills to make an impact. And it was a great phase and experience, and it was really a powerful, impactful time. And soon after that, I got recruited to join an organization called Parlay for the Oceans, and I was the managing director there, helping to run global operations. we were collecting plastic all over the world and then putting it into products like sneakers. We made 50 million pairs of Adidas sneakers, Dior gowns, American Express credit cards. It was all licensing, really. And that was when I got tapped to join Betterguards. And actually, the founders of Parlay were German. And this was based out of New York, but very international company all over the world, from the Maldives to Brazil to Dominican Republic, throughout Asia, Australia. So there was a lot of travel. It was very international. It was big teams, actually, and then working with global brands to license. And this, we were licensing ocean plastic into products, and it obviously had a lot of impact as well. But that's where really like global licensing, et cetera, and like running massive global teams came into play. And the main investors of Betterguards met me and said, hey, we've got this opportunity. And I was honestly a little bit unsure. The company had been around, Betterguards had been around for about almost a decade, thinking, mainly as an R&D business, trying to unlock the business. And at the time, the investors started to have conversations with me. Betterguards was part of the NBA Launchpad in 2022. And that kind of perked my ears up because I was an athlete. I suffered from injuries, suffered from ankle injuries and knee injuries, et cetera. And this was really a breakthrough technology. And so I took the leap and I started running the company. I mean, there was no US presence at the time. So I went to Germany. It was supposed to be 2 weeks. It ended up being 6 months spending time over there. My wife has her own opinions about that whole experience. Another week away, It ended up being 6 months. And, it was crazy. They never had an American colleague, let alone now an American CEO coming in to kind of steer the company into the future. It was an arduous time for sure. There's cultural differences. One of my mentors gave me a book called The First 90 Days, which is really good if you're kind of like changing careers or going into a new position. And I remember flying to Germany and reading the book, and you want to score like a 70 out of 100, which is they ask you questions: is this a new job, a new title, a new role, a new industry? Is there cultural differences? And you want to be above a 70 out of 100. And I think I was at like a 30. And I remember like, what the hell am I doing? I'm flying across the world to go start this endeavor. And there's a lot of challenges, cultural, et cetera. But in the end, like taking that leap, I think was one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Career decisions, but also, growth internally of what it challenged me to do. And, I'm 3.5 years into the gig now. We've had some incredible success. We now have all 30 NBA teams using the product, and over 80,000 athletes around the world who have started to adopt this technology, from elite level athletes all the way through to youth, which is a big segment of ours, across all different sports, from basketball, volleyball, running, tennis, soccer, American football, you name it. We have athletes that have started to use it. Skateboarding's been interesting, and lacrosse and rugby, and the list goes on. So ankle injuries are the number one most common injury in sports. And so we start there, but we've got a lot coming into innovation. It hasn't been an easy ride, but I always say like whatever is worth doing shouldn't be easy.
Yeah.
So it's been a fun journey so far, and we've got a lot more to do.
So you're manufacturing the product.
Yeah.
So you manufacture the product, you actually sell the product, right? Through what, retailers, D2C?
Yeah, right now we're about 80% D2C, 20% direct to teams and leagues, and collegiate, professional in 30 countries. So all throughout Europe and North America, and then we have distribution deals across Asia and other parts of the world. But we manufacture the core technology. This is the Betterguard adapter. It's a piston. We patent the hell out of this thing, and essentially it acts like an artificial ligament. So if you pull it slow, it moves with you, and you pull it fast, it locks up. It's kind of a seat belt for your ankle. So like if you're running, jumping, cutting, this is moving with your body, and if your ankle is rolling over, it locks up. So it's based on velocity. It responds in 30 milliseconds, it normally takes your brain to tell your body to stop moving in 90 milliseconds. So this is about 3 times faster than your body, but it's super lightweight. I mean, this is like 40% lighter than every other brace on the market. And it gives you full mobility, full range of motion, and protection only when you need it. We kind of reverse engineered bracing. If you're wearing something super rigid for the entirety of a game to help prevent against a split second injury, it doesn't make any sense. You're prohibiting your performance, your movement, and all of the things that you want to do as an athlete. So our philosophy was, let's protect against a split second and give athletes all their movement back. And we've got a bunch of science to prove it. 54% faster return to play. And yeah, it's been really well adopted around the world because of the comfort, the mobility, but also having world-class protection only when you need it.
So the key is the piston,
That's right.
the ligament piston, right?
That's right.
It's because the rest of it is just
It's a compression.
yeah, compression.
Yeah.
So that doesn't, because compression doesn't inhibit your performance. Compression, you wear it anyway.
Athletes love compression, right? So
Sure.
it feels like you're wearing a compression sock. I got to get you one to try out, but it feels like you're really wearing compression sock. And this is all designed and developed and engineered in Germany. And then we work with we actually have our own factory in Croatia where we do the manufacturing of the compression and put it all together. But it's all European made and engineered, and yeah, we've really patented the hell out of it. But we're working on other stuff too, where this can be licensed into footwear and some other stuff as well. That's pretty exciting.
Yeah, that is exciting. So people can, anybody can buy it, correct? You don't just have to be an athlete or a professional athlete. Somebody could buy it off your website, correct?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, people hurt their ankles all the time. I mean, I have a friend of mine who got into a really bad car accident, and he had drop foot. Now, it's not indicated for drop foot, so I'm not suggesting you should buy it for drop foot, but he had really bad drop foot, and he wore it, and he was like, this thing changed my life. He's like, all these other braces were so uncomfortable. So you don't have to be an athlete. There's plenty of people who injure their ankle walking down the street and step in a pothole or
Sure.
stepping down an uneven, like, off a ladder or whatever it is. It's the most common injury. There's 200 million ankle injuries a year, something like 25 to 28,000 a day in the US. So not all of those are athletes. It is designed on velocity, so normally to activate it, you need to be moving pretty quick, but there's plenty of people who buy it for applications just to walk around, have that compression, and also feel extra secure because residual ankle sprains, the problem is they just reoccur often. So that's what this helps with.
Yeah, I mean, but even just runners,
Sure.
like people who are just you know runners. They're not professionals. They just love doing 10Ks, halves, marathons, whatever it is, and they get ankle injuries. So
Definitely, yeah. Trail running, especially, it's common, but any runner, if you're people get injuries, and so what we want to do is modernize what bracing looks like. Like I said earlier about the Nathan's ankle corset, there hasn't been a lot of innovation in this space. You look back to that very first one, things have gotten more bulky, more plastic, more rigid, metal, etc. And what's interesting is the way that this industry has evolved is that the big performance brands, the Nikes and Adidas and Under Armour, they haven't really wanted to get into injury. Good for us, but I think they want to steer away from the liability or whatever it is. They want to be performance focused, and it's much more inspiring. And then traditional bracing has been made by, like brace manufacturers, and then they're all working towards a medical code. So when you go to the doctor, they write you a script, you get a brace, you wear it for a week, you hate it, you put it in the closet, and it lives there forever. What we're really trying to do is have something that athletes can actually use that helps them perform, that helps them move, but also gives protection. And that's the Venn diagram we're living in and continuing to grow.
yeah, yeah, it's very true. I mean, when you look at like most ankle braces or braces in general are basically compression, except for the ones that have those. I don't know what you call them, but it's like pieces of like plastic that run up the
Right.
sides that sort of stabilize, and but they're ridiculous because you can't really do anything. I mean, it's fine if you're just walking, but if you're a runner or a cyclist or anything like that, you can't use it when you can't use it when you're exercising. It's too rigid. You know, in my
Yeah.
opinion, it causes more damage than what it's designed to prevent
Yeah,
in
well,
that
it's
scenario.
not just your opinion. I mean, the science has shown that, what athletes need and what anybody needs in recovery is they need movement. Like your ancillary ligaments and tendons need to be strengthened during your recovery. When you're wearing something rigid, you're essentially immobilizing the ankle. So that immobilization is actually making it weaker. So as soon as you take that your brace off, the propensity of re-injury is much higher, right? And so the whole concept behind this is movement is critical to recovery, but the problem is when people roll their ankle, they continuously roll it, right? So how do you allow that movement and still offer the protection? And that's what we're focused on.
Right, right. So where you take the brand from here, where you are? I mean, you basically you're in all these countries, but it's still a fairly young brand.
It is, yeah. I mean, I like to think about, the journey for Better Guards, especially when we started commercially. I mean, the team in Germany had done so much work for me to come in, and the timing was great for me. But I think the reality is that it's only been a few years, right? And we've been super focused on the ankle, and that was by very deliberate intention. Um, the German engineers have a lot of, there was a lot of ideas and there's a lot of innovation. And when I came in, it was to be very, very disciplined. Like, look, we got to pause everything. We got to be hyper focused. And now that we've really been succeeding in the ankle space, we've been working on some new developments and there's new things coming around adaptive bracing. I don't want to give away too much right now, but there's things that we're working on that'll start coming out next year. We also did an acquisition of a company called Next Styles. They were part of the NBA Launchpad with us in 2022. And the founder of Next Styles came on board as our new chief technology officer. He's an incredible brain and mind who got his PhD from MIT in connected fabrics. And so we're now starting to play with how sensing technology and connected fabric technology can be integrated into some of the things we're building and what we want to build into the future. So we have thinking more around like the digital wearable space. There's a lot of things we're working on now that'll be coming to fruition next year. But ultimately, I think we have the opportunity to own this space in adaptive bracing with a layer of injury intelligence that hasn't quite been seen in the market. So a lot of exciting things. Like I said, we're thinking about footwear, but there's so much more to do. There's different markets, there's different channels. The military is super interesting. Actually, through research, found out that the number one injury of a warfighter is an ankle injury. And we think a lot about sports and how injuries can affect contracts and careers, but for a warfighter, it can impact life and death, right? And when you're out hundreds of miles away from where you need to be, or a base that's safe, injuries become very serious. And so, we're really thinking about this as a strategic channel. But of course, there's so much to do in sports as well. Like there's different markets we can go to, looking across Asia and other parts of the world. But right now, I mean, we have a really clear kind of plan and strategy around product and markets as well that we can go open. But different markets have different channels. I mean, being a medical device, we have regulatory approvals and shipping and tariffs have gotten more complicated these days. So there's a lot that we can still unlock in our back door while we continue to innovate for the future.
Yeah, that's. I was sitting here thinking about it when you're talking about it, going, God, it's unlimited as far as what you can do with just the ankle part. But then, you just threw the wrench into my thinking, going, oh, it's a medical device. So now you've got to go through all that FDA approval, and every country's probably got their own standard, and that becomes sort of a bottleneck. I don't know how fast things move in other countries, but I do know that I do have some friends who've done some things with the FDA, and it's not fast.
Yeah, different. It's crazy. I mean, even in Europe, and then with Brexit, and then with Switzerland's kind of different, and then but every country kind of outside of the EU and the US with the FDA, which is what we know, every country has different regulatory bodies that need to kind of be met and evaluated for regulatory approvals. And so that's a piece of what we have to do as well. Canada is a different regulatory body, right? And so there's different requirements in different countries. So yeah, it's not as easy as like selling a T-shirt. There's different requirements that have to be met in different countries because of the medical nature of what we have.
Yeah, we just went through it with a company that has an electric shaving product, and we helped them get going, and we did their initial marketing and branding and such, and they started selling in the U.S. We had to get UL certification because it's got a battery in it that's rechargeable, etc. And then they wanted to expand into Europe, and that's a different certification.
Yep.
And then going to China, that's a different certification, and
Yep.
Japan is a different certification. And so you wind up, and it never dawned on me when you buy an electric product that sells all over the world, all those little
Yeah.
icons at the bottom, and it never occurred to me that they were all centered around the battery, and
Yeah.
that's and it's costly. It's costly every year because you got to re-up them, and every time you come out with a new version, you've got to do it again and again and again. And it
Yeah.
was the biggest, from a marketing perspective, it was driving me insane. But you have to do it, from the engine, but the engineers have to take care of that,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Yeah. There's always these unforeseen uh, bottlenecks or hiccups or roadblocks, but I think that's the nature of innovation. There's always going to be things that are challenging, and what I've found is that you just got to keep pushing like one step in front of the other, and it's amazing. I think a lot of the time we underestimate what we can do in a year and overestimate what we can do in a month. And so, thinking back over the last years and how far we've come, like we didn't even have an office in New York, and now it's the U.S. is 60% of our sales. So obviously the sports culture here is different, but we have to. There's always going to be these things, right? And I think as a leader, you're trying to find the balance of what's the right decision, because even new products and new regulations and new markets, and then you have to figure out inventory. It all takes a little bit of blood and treasure, right? And so you said it too, and we've had this conversation amongst our leadership team and some of our investors, like we have so much more we can do with the ankle. So
Right.
it makes sense to continue to innovate. And these are strategic questions that, it's always a balance. But there's the thing like innovate or die, right? And so, but innovation can come in different forms. Innovation can come in different channels. Like selling to the military is probably considered of innovation as it relates to go to market versus just having product innovation. I think we're always thinking about innovation through the lens of like, yeah, go to market is one way we can change and like push the boundaries. I mean, traditional bracing goes through medical supply, distribution into hospitals for a code that gets reimbursed from insurance. That's traditional bracing for the most part, the big bulk of it. And so for us to kind of reimagine how can we get this into athletes' hands without having to go through that same channel that requires coding and approvals and then selling into hospitals versus like, is there enough market demand for a $200 ankle brace that customers will buy with their own credit card? People thought we were crazy, but it's working. So, we're onto something, that's for sure.
I think that like the whole teledoc world is sort of changing a lot of what we do, how we do it when it comes to um, things that are not so, I don't know, dangerous, maybe things that are. So I
Yeah.
mean, I would imagine that like telehealth is probably going to play a role in your future at some point,
Sure.
because just like just look at what it's done to GLP-1s in a year. GLP-1s a year ago, you had to go to your doctor, you had to go through insurance, and the cost was $2,000 per month. Now it's you got Roe coming out with something that you can do telehealth, get on there, and next thing you know, they're shipping it to you for $200.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. We're kind of at this zeitgeist moment, I feel, with health and wellness, where not only can you leverage platforms like telehealth, but you can also like there's so much access to information, which can be a bit overwhelming. Like there's also I get hit with ads for other ankle products now. They look really similar to ours, but the point is that consumers have to also do their due diligence, and I think like there's a lot of noise and everything we're getting, and whether it's the fad around different like pharmaceuticals, or whether it's different products. How do you create stickiness in this world where people's attention span, and how do you create something that's differentiated? It's not easy. There's a lot of things out there, and there's so much activity on the web that like you know there's ways to find out more information, and I think it's important for consumers to just also be more informed. There's more tools with all the AI and everything else that you can go and you can validate and do research, and I think consumers have never been more empowered, right? But also there's a lot of different products out there that can sell the same way you are. So how do you differentiate through that noise? And so it is interesting though, like definitely the world has evolved quite a bit on I think healthcare, and like I said, this wellness preventative has become more and more important. And we always say that availability is the best ability, right? And but you're seeing that across the board from not
Yeah.
only physical products but to pharmaceuticals as well.
Yeah. I think AI is changing the game in a lot of different ways. I mean, certainly the way we operate. But, you know, you've got you've got people out there just like they did with, black hat SEO. You've got people out there filling some of these AI engines with bad information, just garbage information. And that becomes, sort of a problem, in my opinion, with a lot of different things. Um, you know, there's some things that AI does really, really well. And then there's some things that you just have to be careful when you do research, because there's people out there filling it with, you know, inaccurate information. So
Yeah, for sure. It's the world has changed so fast, and it's going to continue to evolve so fast. And I think in a way you have a lot more information, but I think that the quality of the information, it's on us as consumers to make sure we're doing our diligence to validate what's real and what's not, and checking multiple sources and doing the research. And I think just because it's in a model doesn't mean it's true, right?
yeah,
So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah. No, I mean it's amazing what's happened with AI in the last 3 years. We went from really LLM models to workflows to agents in 3 years, and I mean the agents today are so powerful in what you can do with it. So I don't know how it's affecting your business. I would imagine that the AI modeling for product development is probably huge. Uh,
It's yeah, I mean we have to use it right across the business, but I think what I've seen just more holistically in sports has been pretty amazing. You think about like there's of course a lot of the wearable technology with Aura and Whoop and Garmin and that space, and Apple Watch of course being a big one, but the amount of data that's now gone into sports has been sometimes overwhelming for practitioners, for athletes. Like, what do you do with all of this data, and what's really the things that you can tease out that's actionable and helps you on the journey, as opposed to just having data, right?
right, right.
And I think in sports we're seeing some kind of data fatigue from different stakeholders. Some athletes love it. They want to know, you're done with a practice, you're a college athlete, there's your catapult score. You can see it's automating what meal you should go eat to optimize for your, electrolytes and for your protein and for your carbs and all of it. And it's gathering all of this data, and it's kind of making it convenient, right? But then there's things that's also interesting at the like NBA level, the NFL level, right, where there's all of this data. But then you have to understand as a player, how is this data being used?
Right.
So there's always this tension around how much data do I want to give, because you might say like, oh, we're here, we've got the best intentions, and this data is going to help us make sure you get healthier faster. But that data can also be used to change contracts, right? And there's obligations that need to be met to make sure that this data say, okay, well, maybe there's a long-term risk of this athlete of this type of injury. How does that affect contracts in the league and the players? And the NBA has 450 guys playing, so these are things that have to always be considered as well. There's a whole slew next season of guys who are ready to come in and be the next great one, and so the competition level is very real. And at the same time, you need to use the data to stay competitive, but then like there's another side of this in which the data can actually somehow turn against you if you are prone to injuries and this gets captured through some sort of modeling that happens. So there's a lot of pros, but there's, of course, like anything, and like I think in general in AI, you just have to be very cognizant of how it's being used and what the unintended consequences might be.
Yeah. Yeah. I think in every I think in every industry right now, there's data overload for and just like you said, it's not just in athletics, but what am I doing with this data? There's so much data. What am I really measuring? And how much do I want to measure? You know, we I coach a lot of entrepreneurs and a lot of guys that are in business, they when you get on with them and you say, what kind of KPIs are you tracking? They'll give you a list of like 100 KPIs. This is what I look at every day. I've got built this model and I've got an AI agent that's pulling this. And you go, okay, great. But you can't make changes to 100 KPIs. You can't focus on 100 KPIs. And so, you really have to hone down and dig deep into what you really want to know and what's really going to affect change, right? And certainly when it comes to medical history or medical information, it's a different thing because that's especially in sports where there's so much money involved. I could see that saying, okay, this could change uh, a person's livelihood, right? By analyzing the data wrong.
Yeah, and it's interesting, like just the evolution of how some of the leagues have changed, like and some of the collective bargaining agreements. Now you have to disclose all of your medical history, and then they do measurements and preseasons and combines, and they're looking for risks, and injury risk is a determining factor of where you might land in the draft. Sometimes an injury can make you slide farther down than what you were anticipating, but that all happened recently.
Sure.
And so, but like at the same time, you hear stories about kids who are in high school who maybe couldn't get scouted, but then they can turn in this data report of their performance and their jump height and their fast twitch, like, being able to have more lateral speed, and they can show a report card as opposed to showing up in person, and they can go get drafted to a D1 school because of how well they performed in this. So like it's there's so much, and some of it's being used as a benefit, some of it can have other unintended consequences, and I think we're still trying to figure out how to navigate it all, right? And it's the other thing is just, but you said it, in the land of business, like having the overload of data doesn't necessarily help you, and
Right.
being able to measure everything. And I think we have to somehow trust the human intuition around some of these decisions, right? That maybe can't be measured perfectly, but at least that's me trying to save my job from the robots, I guess.
Yeah. Well, I don't. I think in your world, I could see AI streamlining the modeling of a new product and new innovation very quickly and taking that when it comes to business, when it comes to everyday business, it depends on what you're really trying to focus on, and then pulling the right information. But it takes discipline, I think, to say, this is what's important to my business. This is what I can deal with every single day to focus on, to make decisions off of, to keep the ship going in the right direction. This other stuff is extraneous. And, there's always outside forces that look at other pieces of data and bring it in, whether it's board members or whether it's investors or whatever, and that information may or may not be relevant, right? And they stick it out there like it is, and you're going, it's not really, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a lot. It's for sure. On the market, on the product development side, it's been incredible being able to just like pull market research data and to be able to pull, global trends and things like at the drop of a hat. I mean, that stuff becomes invaluable. How do we prioritize innovations, and how do we think about, our portfolio and channels and et cetera? Like that's been really powerful, and we're going to continue to use it. I mean, we have to, right? But also going back to some of those regulatory things, like what's the regulatory process to sell an ankle brace in Japan? That doing that now compared to what would have been 5 years ago, or we would have been Googling and then trying to figure out like what's a legitimate site versus not. Now we can at least have some understanding and direction. So there's a lot more things like that that I think are going to continue to help streamline decision making for sure.
Yeah, no question about it. Yeah, and even the reduction of the cost of getting that information, like you were saying, trends and things used to cost a fortune. Now you can have it rapidly and for 1/10 of what we used to pay for it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
It's amazing because yeah, and I think I think AI in a lot of ways has really catapulted us. Uh, from an information standpoint and a knowledge base, I think it's really done a tremendous amount of good. But again, I think it depends on how you use it and what you're using it for, and then how you moderate it. Uh, you know, so
Yeah. Yeah.
um, so we're getting close to the end here. So uh, people have heard the story now. Maybe we've got somebody on here who's part of a team that's playing soccer, semi-pro or whatever. How would they get in touch? They go to the website. What do they do? Let's say they were interested in talking to you about the product.
Yeah, sure. I mean, betterguards.com. Feel free to go check it out. We have
Can
different.
consumers buy on betterguards.com? Like if I go there, I could buy an ankle bracelet.
You can,
I mean,
yeah,
an ankle brace.
an ankle brace. You can go buy one of our. I hate even using the word brace. I like to call it like a ankle protection sleeve or something, because we're like, people hear brace and they cringe, right? They're like, oh, I've had an ankle brace. People are just like, I hate braces. I'm like, I know, but try ours, I promise. Yeah, go to betterguards.com.
Well, what
Anybody,
do you call it? What do you call it?
like an ankle protection sleeve is the best I could do. I don't know. I should run it through AI and see what they come up with. But yeah, no, ankle protection sleeve. Like that's kind of what it is. It's a compression sock, it's adaptive ankle sleeve. We've gone through the ringer, but betterguards.com. You can check it out. You can search by different sports. We've got pro athletes across the board who are wearing it across different sports, and for teams, we have a great sales team that can help with that as well. Instagram, we've actually got a pretty interesting, great following. All organic. We've been able to grow close to 30,000 followers now, and it's for an ankle brace company, it's pretty impressive to get people to pay attention to what we have going on. So check us out on Instagram, betterguards.com. And yeah, we're in 30 countries. So wherever you are, we should be able to help you.
And do you have athletes using the product on and showing it on their social and your social?
Yeah, a lot. Athletes are expensive always to get like strategic partnerships with. I always tell the agents, we're not a t-shirt company or a tequila company. They're wearing our product to stay safe, and there's value in that. But we do have quite a few athletes, and like I said, athletes who are also investing into us across basketball, football, etc. So people want to be part of the journey of what we're building to help athletes move better and recover faster. And so,
But even if even if they're wearing it, not an endorsement, but even if they're wearing it and they just tag you, that's valuable.
it happens all the time. Yeah,
Yeah,
we've got incredible athletes. So
yeah, that's
a bunch of all-star, Jalen Johnson, John Morant, Austin Reeves, the Wagner brothers from Germany, Modest Buzelis, Nolan Traore, a bunch of French guys are wearing it, Spain. The whole German, not the whole, almost the whole German national team in basketball is wearing it. Throughout Europe, all over as well. But I think we're in 70% of the Power Four schools now that are using it across volleyball, basketball, tennis, etc. So football. So the adoption's been great, even for soccer. Soccer's been one of our best sport, and traditionally soccer players don't want anything on their feet.
All right.
But it's a testament to the mobility that they can have and perform with. So.
But you have to worry, because if they're wearing it, they might not be able to do the flop as easily as they do.
Yeah, God forbid. That would be a dream come true. Yeah.
Yeah, I tell you, that was fun to watch during the World Cup. To watch some of these guys just do the flop.
Yeah,
That was always funny.
the World Cup was a lot of fun being here in New York and just in the States in general. The energy was fantastic. Between the Knicks and then the World Cup, it was a pretty special month here in the city. So a little bit of nostalgia thinking back on it. It was only a couple months ago, but it feels like, yeah, it flew by.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, thanks for joining us. I really appreciate it. We'll put your social media links, as well as the link to the website, in the description of the show. So that'll be out there. So if anybody wants to go take a look, you buy one. You'll be able to get there through the link. Yeah, but I think that your journey is pretty incredible. I think it was really very well done, the way you did it and the way you went from social enterprise to really this is pretty cool. And I appreciate your insights into sports technology, injury prevention, but more importantly, leadership with what you're doing. So it's great. Kudos to you, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on and share that.
It's a real pleasure, and yeah, if anybody's interested in understanding a little bit more about the economics of injury,
The economics of injury.
I talk about that quite a bit on my Instagram, and yeah, follow me on LinkedIn. And people, if you want a discount, you can also hit me up. I'd be happy to support for all of your listeners. So if people reach out, we'll hook them up. So
On your Instagram?
sure, Instagram's great. Yeah, that'd be a good way to do it. But thank you, Phil, for having me. It's a pleasure to be able to talk to you about the journey. And yeah, I hope people follow along. Like I said, we're just getting started, so a lot more to come here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And we will see everybody next week.
It's late and you're still running your own marketing all by yourself. Strategist, writer, designer, analyst, all of it falls on you. There's a better way. This is Trellios, your AI marketing team. Setup takes minutes. Just tell it who you are and drop in your website. Trellios instantly studies your site, your market, and your competitors. Then it builds your strategy, a full SWOT, your strengths, gaps, and biggest opportunities laid out. From that, it recommends a custom 90-day quick wins campaign, the exact moves to grow built around your SWOT. You stay in control, review it, and approve the brief with a single click. Then your AI team gets to work. A chief marketing officer directs a full roster of specialists, one for every job. They produce weeks of on-brand content, written, scheduled, and ready to publish. And a live dashboard shows you exactly what's working, in real time. Your marketing finally runs itself, so you can breathe.